Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to make some lovely mini shepherd pies using short crust pastry. Firstly, I'm going to start by boiling off my potatoes to make a mash. I've got my stove on medium heat and here I have a liter of water that I put to boil. I'm also using 500 grams of potatoes, and whatever mash do get remained, we can add it on the side. To my potatoes, I'm going to use half a teaspoon of rough salt, and I'm using 2 whole garlic, which will boil out with the potatoes and then mashed. I will allow this to boil till soft. For my mini shepherd pies, I am using my muffin tray, and I'm also going to use a short crust pastry which we bought from our spas. Firstly, I'm going to spray and cook my muffin tray. So you're going to try out making 6 first. I'm going to open my pastry. I had this pastry thawing out in the fridge overnight, and I just taken it out before use from the fridge. I also got a round cutter which I'll quickly add in a little spray and cook to it. Firstly, I'm gonna cut my pastry into round portions. I will have to see whether this fits in. So this fits in perfectly. I will cut another 5 and fit in to my muffin pan. Here's my 6 that I managed to put into my muffin tray, but all in all, that sheet will give us 8, which is 400 grams. If you want to make more pies, you had to buy more pastry rolls. With a fork, I'm just going to pierce little holes. This is how it looks. I've cut my sheet of baking paper to little squares so I can fit in the squares to the pastry. To each of these pies, I'm going to add in some beans. In this way, it stops the pastry from rising when we give it a blind bake. You can use any grains that you like. You can even use some dal or rice. To this point, I am going to allow this to rest in the fridge while I get my ingredients for my mince ready. My potatoes are boiled and I'm going to strain them quickly and get back to you and show you how I make my mash. This is my potatoes that I boiled and strained, and now I'm ready to make my mash. Firstly, I'm gonna smash my potatoes and also the garlic that boiled with. For my mash, I need 1/3 of a cup milk, a tablespoon of margarine, a generous grind of black pepper. I also cut some lovely fresh spring onions, which I'll add to my mash. Firstly, I will grind my pepper. Add in my milk. And then my margarine. Using the same spoon, give this a nice mix. Now I'm gonna cut in my spring onions. That's enough. I'll give this a nice mix. I will cover and keep this aside. Firstly, I've put my oven on to 180 to preheat while I braise my lamb mince. These are the ingredients for my braising. Here I have 250 grams of lamb mince, which are rinsed and drained. I've got 1 medium onions that are sliced, and I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of oil. And then for my spices, I am going to use half a teaspoon of mixed herbs, half a teaspoon of paprika, half a teaspoon of barbecue spice, and half a teaspoon of chops and steak spice, half a teaspoon of ginger garlic, half a teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of mixed veg stock. I'm also using half a cup of mixed veg, a grind of pepper, a tablespoon of tomato puree, a teaspoon of Mrs. Balls. And thereafter, I've got some cheese that I grated to top my pies with. For now, I will just leave my cheese in the fridge. When ready to use, I'll take it out of the fridge. I've got my stove on medium heat, and I'm using a small pot today because my mince will come up very little. I'm adding the oil to my pot. Then I'm going to add in my onions. I will allow this onion till it's golden brown. My onions is brown, and to my onions, I'm going to add in my ginger garlic and allow this to fry a little. And thereafter, I'm just going to add in my spices and my mixed herbs. And also my veg stock. And now I'm ready to throw in my mince. As you can see, I used very little oil because my mince will release some of its own fats. And to my mince, I'm going to add in my salt. I will allow this mince to fry out. I forgot to mention my grind of pepper. I'm supposed to use it with my spices, but I always give it a quick grind on top. Give it a mix. I will allow this mince to fry out. While my mince is cooking, I will put my pastry into the oven to blind bake for 12 minutes. My mince has come to a fry, and I'm going to just throw in my mixed veg. I'll give this a nice mix and allow it to cook. 12 minutes has passed and the blind bake for my short crust pastry is done. I'm going to remove it from the oven and I'll allow this to cool down. My vegetables are cooked and now I'm ready to add in my tomato puree. Give this a mix. And I'm also going to use my Mrs. balls. To my bowls, I'm going to add in a little water to rinse out my sauces and add it to the cooking. My curry is cooked and I'm going to switch the stove off and allow this to cool. My curry has cooled and now I'm ready to assemble my mini shepherd pies. I first go with 1 tablespoon. This is a little bit too much, so I'm just going to take some out. And now maybe I'll go with 1 teaspoon. Now using a teaspoon, I will fill up the pastry. You can adjust. If you got a bigger cutter, you can use a bigger cutter with a bigger muffin tray. Here I made a piping bag. This is a Ziploc plastic. So I'm just going to allow my mashed potato to go in easily. I'm done with the topping of the potatoes and I'm just going to sprinkle on top my cheese. Here I have my spring onions chopped finely. Just a little bit on top to make it look attractive. This is ready to be popped into the oven for another 15 minutes. With my extra mince curry, I can make some lovely breakfast tomorrow, like some sandwiches or a pie. 15 minutes has passed. I am ready to remove my mini shepherd pies from the oven. I will allow this to cool and then remove, and then I'm ready to serve. Here you go, your lovely looking mini shepherd pies served with some nice dip on the side. Now that December is here, you can make these as a starter or as part of finger food platter to serve at any parties. The amount of lamb mince curry that we made, you can easily use it for 15 to 18 mini pies. You can even make these mini shepherd pies in advance and put it into your freezer and then pop it into the oven for your final bake. Thank you all for watching. Give this a try. It will amaze your visitors. I hope you all enjoy.